Hi, my name is Jesse Lee. I'm the CEO of Brooklyn Vendor Assurance. And we get the question, what do you do about this vendor tail? Well, we think that some recent cutting edge technology combined with a slight shift in resourcing and the deployment of resources can bring about a more optimized, cost optimized, service optimized vendor tail pretty quickly. So let's agree on what the challenge looks like and then a proposed way out of this. This is a representation of what companies spend and how they segment their vendors. Just representative. You might have platinum, gold, silver, bronze, but hopefully by now you have a segmentation model, and there's suppliers that are in tier 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it looks something like this. I'm sure it's relatable. Most of the spend will be on the left by supplier, but then that whole tail itself represents, it could be 60% of all the spend, or it could be 30%, depends, but the shape is hopefully somewhat familiar. Now, we say the vendor tail, it doesn't include those critical suppliers, but somewhere around tier 2 probably, right? Probably, if we're honest, some of those tier 2 we're all over, but some of them are ticking over. Yep, they're strategic. Yeah, they're critical. We have our check-ins, or maybe we don't quite find the time, but it seems to be going okay. Well, that's the start of the tail, and then it goes on and on and on and on until we're in those later tiers. And go ask your procurement, anyone in procurement who's beyond that and what's happening. At that point, beyond that, it's probably company credit cards that are buying things. And maybe it's just not worth the time. Maybe sometimes it is, probably not, but it would be nice to know that we've got some optimization, right? Now, aspirationally, we hear that teams want to cover that top 20%, as in really cover. Like, hopefully that's segment 1 covers it all, never really does. But we want to report that our resourcing has at least that top 20% locked up tight in terms of understanding and optimization. It's 10% we see most often if you say, great. And if you were to inspect it, there's an aspiration, and then there's really what's going on. And it's maybe about 10% is covered effectively. Risks are managed, performance is managed, contracts are understood, end dates are never a surprise, key obligations are at least known, hopefully digitized, maybe not, but at least we know what the deals are about. So there's your vendor tail. Now, as we said, we want 20%. We could even stretch into say 30 would be covered. And there's this bugbear. There's this risk. That's the thing about the tail. You got the GDPR mandate saying, and if you're a European or UK business, you must protect the data and you may not hand off that obligation. If vendor over there in tier 4 releases your customer's personal information, maybe they weren't critical vendor, maybe they weren't supplier, but you are liable, right? Whatever it is you build and assemble depends on suppliers, surely, right? To some degree, the very platform of your daily operations relies on vendors far out into that tail. As ESG, net zero, diversity, inclusion, anti-slavery, as that comes online, you have risk in your supply chain if your story isn't straight. If you're a B2C business, you stand to win or lose customer loyalty and affinity and drive margins you're happy with based on your ESG story. That isn't cynical greenwashing, right? That is something the consumer can actually dig into and inspect to a degree. And if you're a business to business, not business to consumer, well, those RFPs, those enterprise deals you're chasing, those prospects, those existing customers have mandates to net zero their own supply chain. And that's you. So you are, if you're not now, going to be on a path to quantify risk and have not just a rating, but an understanding, but a cadence of governance and correction. And that means activity way out into that vendor tail, or you just can't represent your business as being, say, net zero or slavery free. Your attestation and assessment based on no evidence is not going to fly. So that means we've got risk and a need to understand and control into that supply chain far away into that vendor tail. Too bad we're only, as we said, effectively covering around the top 10%. And even still, we know we're not going to be resourced to go all the way that far. What to do? I hope your answer is better than survey them over and over and over and see what they say, right? It needs more than that. So that is the shape of the problem. That box captures the problem. And this captures it in more abstract form. Our people are devoted to the stuff on the left, as we talked about. We wish and kind of need them to do the same sort of activities to the right-of-ways, and that would take 2 to 3 times more resource, and it would take 4 to 6 times more resource to really cover the risk and the opportunities. It's also the innovation and optimization opportunities across the tail. That's the shape of the problem, but that's our resource, what to do. Well, we think that some recent cutting-edge technology combined with a slight shift in resourcing and the deployment of resources can bring about a more optimized, cost-optimized, service-optimized vendor tail pretty quickly.